Hey guys, today I'm going to be making a layout from a sketch from My Scraps and More, and they're having a challenge on their blog right now, so if you go over there you can pick a sketch and enter to win something. I don't remember what, but I thought I'd play along, and I'm going to be using the Basic Gray Kneehighs collection, and also this cardstock, this glittered cardstock is from Die Cuts with a View. Now, if you're familiar with American Crafts POW paper, this particular type of Die Cuts with a View glittered cardstock, which is called Glitzy, is exactly the same. I mean, it's the same weight, it punches, it die cuts, it doesn't shed, it doesn't have a clear plastic coating on it, it's a soft glitter, it's gorgeous. And like I said, if you're familiar with American Crafts POW paper, it's extremely similar. It's from Die Cuts with a View, and it's called Glitzy. And I love it. It's fantastic. And I paid $3.50 for a pack of 24. And American Crafts, theirs is like $1.99 a sheet, so it's such a good price. And I got it at Joann's, is where I got it. So anyways, here I am using the Basic Gray Kneehighs collection, which I got from My Scraps and More, which is what kind of gave me the idea to check out their blog and participate in the challenge. This is a collection, it's a kind of a double collection called Kneehighs and Bow Ties, and I just got the girl part of it. So I printed these two screenshots from my iPhone of the first time I ever beat my mom at Words with Friends, which is the first time she has ever lost Words with Friends ever. So that's why I took the screenshots, because it was a historic moment. And for some reason, when I printed them out, I printed one with a white border and one without. And for this layout, I wanted them both to have a white border. So what I did is I cut the white border off of the one, and then I matted them both on white cardstock. And the reason I did it that way is because that way they both had a matte white border. Whereas if I'd left one in the photo paper and one in cardstock, one would be shinier and one would be more matte. So here's another sheet of the Die Cuts with a View Glitzy cardstock. So great green, matches the collection really well. Actually, the pack of the Glitzy that I got had a lot of papers that match this collection really well. I used an EK Success large scallop border punch to punch another sheet of the Glitzy cardstock to give a scalloped border to this piece. And there's always a little sliver of paper left over when I use that punch, and so I'm going to glue it to the top of this accent piece of paper. And this accent piece of paper comes from the sketch. I'm following the sketch pretty closely. I think even the scallops were on the sketch. It was kind of an experiment to see how I would do. And now I'm checking photo placement, and I'm going to switch the photos around because I prefer to have a darker photo lower on the page than a lighter photo. It just looks better to me. And then I went and I inked the edges of this, and then wished I'd inked the pink edges. So whenever I have already adhered something to a mat and I wished I'd inked it, what I do is I put the Tim Holtz ruler right up against the edge, and I run a marker along the edge of the ruler. And that way I can make a thin line of whatever color I want. So if I wish I'd inked it in brown, I would just use a brown marker. In this case, I'm using a black marker. And it works really well for getting a nice, thin, controlled edging on a page after you've already glued it down and you can't get in there with your ink pad. For the pieces I haven't glued down, I'm just going to go with my ink pad. And again, I'm trying to make a really thin, controlled line. I'm not trying to distress. I'm just trying to give them a little black line so they'll have some separation from each other, because it's a lot of busy, bold, bright patterns, and I want to make sure they stand apart from each other. So now I'm going to use a centering ruler to put down this piece of orangey yellow paper down the center, and again that's from the sketch. And then I'm adhering these two accent pieces on the side, and I originally had one going up and one going down, and I didn't like how that looked, so I just moved them. And the second one tore, but it was no big deal. I just went and made another one and glued it right over the top, and that's going to be totally hidden and no one's going to see it. So now I'm going to glue down my horizontal accent piece, and as soon as I glue it down, I start to think that I really would rather have had the orange and turquoise pieces on top of the horizontal piece instead of the horizontal piece on top of the orange and turquoise pieces. So I'm going to have to change how I was going to do my title. And what I end up doing is I end up doing my title large and in the center, so that it will, instead of in the upper right corner, which is what I originally planned, so that it'll cover that awkward area. Because you'll see once I put the photos down that that middle area doesn't look very good. There's just a bunch of different lines going in all directions, and then it's just kind of empty there. There's nothing going on except all of those lines kind of crisscrossing. So I'm going to take one of the scallop circles from the sticker sheet to create a large scalloped circle where I can place a rather large title. And it was so flimsy, I needed to back it on something, so I thought I would back it on some white cardstock. But no matter how I tried, it would not hold its shape as a circle. So what I did is I got the next one down and adhered it to the page. And it held its shape no problem. So I cut it out and I left 1/8 of an inch around the outside. And that's just enough room for me to run a thin line of glue all the way around the outside, so that I can then come back with my scallop circle from the very outside and just fit it right around that, and then it'll be a circular piece again. So once I did that, everything was round again. And so I decided that what I would do is I would layer some circles on the inside and then put my title on top. And I already knew as soon as I put that pink piece down, I already knew that I didn't like it. But I decided to place my title just because I didn't want to redo it. So I was hoping it would look good enough. And so when I have a title that I have to be careful about the placement of, then I will put it on the edge of a ruler like this, so that I can move it around and get it exactly where I want it. So in this case, I needed it centered on this medallion, so that's why I put it on the ruler. And then the title's going to be Victory at Last. So now I'm doing last, and I'm going to put it across the bottom of the piece, and then I'll go back and put the A and the T in the middle. And at this point, I'm still really hoping that I'll like it. That when I put it on the page, I'll like it. So I go ahead and I get the page and I put it down, and no, I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel all the letters off, and I'm going to use my craft knife to cut out the inside of the white circle. So all I have is that green outer edge, and then I'm going to glue that to another piece of paper. And I chose the distressed orange of the vertical cardstock piece, and then I re-glued all my letters down. And then because letters are edged in orange and the background was orange, I had to go around their edges with a marker, and I used a black Sharpie pen because I knew down the road that I would be using having to write on photos, so I needed something that would work on a slick surface. So after I adhere it to the page, then I'm going to go ahead and go around the edges that are left with the Sharpie, which is over the photos. And at this point, I really wished I'd used a pale pink instead of that orange, because that's just a little too much green and orange right there in the center. But since I'd already redone it like 2 or 3 times, I was not messing with the title anymore. So now I'm taking some Studio Calico arrows. I think they're either Studio Calico or Freckled Fawn. I have arrows from both companies, so I'm not 100% sure which is which. And I colored them with Colorbox Fluid Chalk ink in the Aquamarine color. And I'm using them to draw attention to the score and the U1 parts of the page, because there's a lot going on with the patterns and there's a lot going on with the title, and I just wanted to make sure that those tinier parts didn't get lost. And I added a little Oh My sticker from the collection, and it was getting a little lost, so I just put it on a white Spellbinder die cut. You could use a punch. And now I'm cutting out a little piece from, there's kind of a journaling and die cut pack that goes along as a companion to this collection, and I just cut the fun and games from that. And then I cut it to make it a banner, and now I'm gonna go around the edges in a thin line of black ink and then adhere it to the page with some foam tape. And then after I've done that, it's looking a little weak. It's a little too light there. I think it needs to be stronger. So I get a wood veneer heart from Studio Calico and I color it with a hot pink ink. And it was a little intense, so I, took off some of the ink with a baby wipe to brighten it up and make it match the pink in the collection better. And then I added that to the fun and games. So now I'm going to do my journaling where I had originally planned to do my title. And I had this piece of grid paper with a file folder tab that was left over from another project that I'm just going to use to do my journaling. And I'm just going through my Zig pens or Zig markers to find one that matches the pink in the collection. And I used the same Aquamarine ink around the edges of the file folder as I did for the wood veneer arrows. So now I'm doing my journaling and I didn't really pay attention to how much space I actually had. So I end up having to cut off some of my journaling, but it doesn't end in an awkward place. I just cut off an additional thought that didn't matter anyway. It said something like it was a close game. Like it was not journaling that added to the story whatsoever. So I decide that just to draw attention to the journaling and to add a third arrow, that I would put another aquamarine arrow pointing down to the journaling so that I'd have arrows in 3 places. So I like to have things in 3s when it makes sense to have them in 3s. And that's it for my page. So here's my victory lap from my win of Words with Friend. And uses the basic gray Kneehighs collection, some glitzy cardstock from Die Cuts with a View, and some embellishments from Studio Calico.